Hi guys, so great evening everyone. Thank you so very much for joining us again on another exciting Upgrade Mastery just for you with Mr. Upgrade. I'm Mr. Upgrade, and yes, Dr. Upgrade. So yeah, this is Dr. Upgrade, but I still like to be called Mr. Upgrade. But yes, I'm officially a doctor now because I got a honorary doctorate degree from the poorest university, Delaware, USA. Right? But all the same, this is Mr. Upgrade, and this is the Upgrade Mastery just for you with Mr. Upgrade. And we do this every Fridays from 7 p.m. through to 8 p.m. And we basically just get to share our experiences from the week, right? So, how are you? How was your week? Welcome to the month of May. Yes, this is the month of May, and officially 4 months down in 2024. How has it been for you from January till April? What has been happening for you? Tell me about it. How is the month of May looking like for you? Remember, this is still our year of the supernatural, so we are still believing and trusting in the supernatural in all that we do. But how are you doing? Let me know. How are you doing? Tell me in the comment section. How are you doing? Thank you so much for joining. Please do want to share the link with your friends, your families, and even your enemies, right? They should be here because there's always more on the upgrade side of life, right? So let me know. How are you doing? How's your week? What did you do this week? The month of April ended this week, and the month of May began this week, right? So tell me, what's it like for you so far? This is the third day in the month of May, and I know the month of May holds tremendous possibilities and opportunities for you. But tell me, how are you? What's the month looking like for you? What are your plans? What are the things you want to achieve? Where do you need help? Like I always tell people, there are two questions I always ask when I meet people. What do you want? And how can I help you? Right? What do you want and how can I help you? So you can tell me, what do you want and how can I help you? Leave that in the comment section and we'll get back to you with the response on what you want and how it can be of help to you. So, how are you? Let's begin from there. How are you doing? How are you doing? How was your week? Was it interesting? Was it fun? Was it enlightening? Was it engaging? Was it just there? Right? Nothing really happened for you. Was your week just there? So tell me, how was your week? And on the upgrade mastery just for you with Mr. Upgrade, we also get to look at our belief systems for the week, all the belief systems that we shared about this week. We also get a review of them, and then we get to talk about our conversation for the week. Now, for this week, our conversation is quite interesting. It is beta or better. And I love this conversation. I can't wait to get into it in detail. We talked about beta or better because you see, when life happens to people, especially if you live in Nigeria, when life happens to people, these are the only two choices that people have. Either they become beta or they become better. So I'm going to show you what the difference really is and why you should make a choice for better and not beta. Does that make sense? Okay, so let's begin. Let's look at our belief system for the week, all the things that we shared this week on our belief system, and how it really would be a blessing to you. Just in case you missed out on the belief system, if you go on the Instagram at Wisdom Counseling or just search Mr. Upgrade on Instagram, you get to see all the things that we share during the week as relating to the belief system because we share the belief system from Monday through Friday, right? And then on Fridays, we talk about our strength for the weekend, right? So you can get to learn all of this from the Instagram page. On Instagram, we get to share all of this. But on the YouTube channel, we just get to talk and have conversation and have fun and just have a good time, right? Because we know that is what we always do here. Now, let's begin. This week, on our belief system, we started out by talking about, guess what? Talking about dealing with hurt, right? Because we realize that a lot of people go through one form of hurt or another, and not many people know how to deal with hurt. So we needed to start looking at all of this because this is what leads people into either being bitter or better. So we started off the week by talking about dealing with hurts. Now, we say people at some point will hurt you. Yes, people at some point will hurt you. Nevertheless, you must become good at dealing with hurt. because hurts are inevitable, which means no matter where you are in this world, there will be people or places or things that will hurt you. Hurts are inevitable. You cannot avoid it. If it hasn't happened to you, it will definitely happen. It's inevitable. But you must now learn how to deal with hurts. Now, we took the scripture from the conversation between Abraham and Lot. Abraham must have been hurt to see that his servants and Lot's servants were striving. You see, so Abraham said to Lot, "Let there be no strife, I beg you, between you and me, or between your headsmen and my headsmen, for we are relatives, right? Is not the whole land before you? Separate yourself, I beg of you, right? Separate yourself, I beg of you, from me. If you choose the right hand, then I will go to the left." And Lot looked and saw that everywhere the Jordan Valley was well watered. Before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, it was all like the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt, as you go to Zoar. Then Lot chose for himself all the land of Jordan Valley, and he traveled east. So they separated. Abraham, dealing with hurts, allowed the separation from Lot. So you see, sometimes in dealing with hurts, it may lead to the separation between you and some people you never believe you're going to separate from. But that's the way you have to deal with hurts. Now, we said there are three simple ways of dealing with hurts. Number one, don't take it personal. Abraham didn't take this personal. He told Lot, "We are relatives, but choose which side you go to. If you go to the left, I'll go to the right." Right? So one way of dealing with hurts, don't take it personal. Number two, forgive even without an apology. A lot of people always want to get an apology from people. When it comes to dealing with hurts, you must learn to forgive without an apology. Because the truth is, some people will take their apology with them to the grave. They will never offer the apology. So you must learn to forgive even without an apology. And then number three, set boundaries and move on if need be. So one of the ways of dealing with hurt, like I said earlier, is separating from the one who is hurting you. So you must learn to set boundaries, and if need be, like in the case of Abraham and Lot, if need be, move on. It's one way for you to deal with hurts. Now we said hurting people will hurt people. So it helps to learn and understand ways of dealing with hurts. Did you get that? Hurting people will hurt people. So it helps to learn and understand the ways of dealing with hurts. Also, unfortunately, the people who will be hurting you the most are the closest to you. Yes. Sometimes not taking hurts personally helps you when it comes to dealing with hurt. Not taking it personally. You see, dealing with hurt will keep you sane from becoming like the people who hurt you. And finally, we wrapped up by saying hurts will come even from the people and places you least expect. But dealing with hurt is your best response and responsibility. Right? So we started out by talking about dealing with hurts, and then we went on from there to talk about the pain no one talks about. Right? There's the pain that no one talks about. People are just silent. Later in the week, we also talk about silence is deadly. There's the pain that no one talks about. Right? And that's what some of the things we're going to share with you on this conversation. You see, silence isn't always golden because there is the pain no one talks about. Now, the analogy for this conversation is the woman with the issue of blood. The woman with the issue of blood had a pain no one talks about. She had hemorrhage for 12 years. You see, she suffered in the hands of many physicians and even lost her wealth in the process of finding back her health. Yet, in all of this, she was going through a pain no one talks about. She became ostracized in society, that no one would want to associate with her because society is built in a way when you have challenges, you lose your own name and take on the name of the challenge. She lost her own name and was now referred to as the woman with the issue of blood. As blind Bartimaeus still had his name, though blind became the prefix, but this woman completely was named by a problem. So she became the woman with the issue of blood. See, this is a part of the pains no one talks about. There are three simple reasons for pain no one talks about. Number one is the stigma. Number two is the shame. And number three is the guilt. These are three simple reasons for pain no one talks about: the stigma, the shame, and the guilt. Now, understand this, that pain no one talks about doesn't get healed because it's not talked about. It just lingers, festers, and grows worse. Is this making sense? Remember this. The pain no one talks about doesn't get healed because it is not talked about. It just lingers, festers, and grows worse. Also, sometimes what hurts more than the pain itself is the inability to talk about the pain. I don't know if you have met people like that. What hurts them more than the pain itself is the inability to talk about the pain. Also, talking is therapeutic. And if you can't even talk about the pain, the healing can never begin. Talking is therapeutic. If you can't even talk about the pain, the healing can never begin. So you understand that when you have pain you can't talk about, it is proof that you truly need therapy and healing, because it is deeper than you know. When you have pain that you can't talk about, it is proof that you really need therapy and healing, because it is deeper than you know. Now remember this, we all have that pain we think we can't talk about. But the truth is, there is no pain that we can't talk about. That's the truth. There is no pain that we can't talk about. Now we moved on from that conversation. We went on to the next, which is forgive yourself. Hi guys, thank you so much for joining. Please let us know where you're watching from, right? We appreciate you. And please leave a comment if anything stands out for you in the conversation. Please leave a comment. Remember, our conversation for today is beta or better. And we haven't gotten there yet. We're just taking a review of our belief system that we shared during the week. You know, every week on the Mr. Upgrade page on Instagram, Wisdom Counseling handle, we always share belief system, because we believe that when we fix our belief system, it fixes our mindset, it fixes our attitude, it fixes our actions, and it fixes our lifestyle. Right? So that's why we share the belief system that we share every week. Now, we started out this week by talking about dealing with hurts, and then we went on to talk about the pain no one talks about, and then we went on to talk about forgive yourself. Now, you're dealing with hurt, you're going through the pain that no one talks about, then you need to learn how to forgive yourself. And what was the conversation on forgive yourself? This is what it is. We said, until you learn to forgive yourself, you will many times think people don't deserve forgiveness. Until you learn to forgive yourself, you will many times think that people don't deserve forgiveness. Now, You know, our text that we used for this script for this conversation was Peter and Judas. You see, both Peter and Judas did evil, but while Peter could forgive himself, Judas could not, and he went to hang himself. You see, Judas probably didn't believe that the rabbi would really die because he had seen the rabbi do several miracles during his ministry. But to his greatest shock and surprise, the rabbi died. The shock that he was the one who handed the rabbi over to those who desired to crucify him, it dawned on him, and he couldn't believe it was going to lead to the rabbi's death. Peter, on the other hand, recognized what he had done by denying the rabbi, was sad and distraught because just as the rabbi had told him, before the cock crows, you will deny me 3 times. Nevertheless, Peter was able to forgive himself and still continue being an apostle. But that cannot be said for Judas, who went to hang himself. Right? Now, what is this letting us know? I'll tell us. 3 simple reasons to forgive yourself. Number 1, you have been forgiven, past, present, and future. You have been forgiven. So because you have been forgiven by God, it is only appropriate that you learn to forgive yourself. Because your past, your present, and your future, they have all been forgiven by the price he paid on the cross. So you have been forgiven. Hi, Nora. Thanks for joining. Thank you so much for joining. All right, so you have been forgiven. Number 2, your past does not equate your future. So because your past does not equate your future, forgive yourself. Yes, you made mistakes in the past. Yes, you've done what you shouldn't have done. But your past does not equate your future. So it is okay to forgive yourself. And number 3, it is setting yourself free from the pain, the shame, and the guilt. Why it's important that you forgive yourself is because it sets you free. It sets you free from the pain, the shame, and the guilt. So forgive yourself. Now you see, until you forgive yourself, it will be really Herculean to forgive others. Until you forgive yourself, it's going to be Herculean for you to forgive others. Also, because you deserve forgiveness. You owe it to yourself because you deserve it. And number 3, not number 3 actually, but another point is life may not have been fair, but when you forgive yourself, you make your life fair. Yes, life may not have been fair to you, but when you forgive yourself, you make your life fair. And then, if God has forgiven you, you have to forgive yourself. Like I told you, you have been forgiven, past, present, future. You have been forgiven. So it's okay to forgive yourself. And then we went on from there and we talked about silence is deadly. Silence is deadly. Now you see, we are building gradually until we get to bitter or better. Right? Now, on silence is deadly, we started off by saying, for the fact that nothing is being said, for the fact that nothing is being said out and in the open, does not mean everything is fine. Silence is deadly. You see, some people say, oh, I'm not saying anything. I didn't say anything. I'm okay. I'm fine. No, 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 no. For the fact that nothing is being said out and in the open does not mean that everything is fine. The truth is, silence is deadly. And we took our text from the story about Amnon, Absalom, and Tamar. You see, Tamar was Absalom's sister. Amnon was Tamar half brother and Absalom's half brother. But for weird reasons, Amnon was liking his half sister Tamar, and he desired her. And then he conspired to get her to come see him, acting like he was sick, and then he raped her. He raped her, and then he sent her away. And Tamar was telling him, yes, you have raped me. That is not bad enough, but sending me away, that is even worse. But Amnon didn't care. He sent her away. And then Absalom, the brother to Tamar, found out what had been done to Tamar, brought Tamar inside, took care of Tamar, but he never said anything to Absalom. For 2 years, he never said anything to Absalom. So Absalom could see Amnon and he would greet him and walk past. Silence is deadly. Silence is deadly. So you see, sometimes when you wrong people, be the one to go reach out for forgiveness because their silence is deadly. Don't say, oh, they're not saying anything about it, they are forgotten. No! Absalom said nothing for 2 years. He was silent about the whole matter. But guess what? When he had a feast for his harvest, he asked and invited all the sons of the kings to come, all his half brothers, half sisters, he invited all of them to come. And at that feast, he instructed his men to kill Amnon after 2 years. Don't just take their silence and say, no, they're not saying anything, they're not saying anything, so they're fine. No, 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 no. They are not saying anything doesn't mean that they are fine. They are not saying anything doesn't mean that they are fine. Silence is deadly. Right? Silence is deadly. And we see this from the case of Amnon, Tamar, and Absalom. Now, 3 simple reasons why silence is deadly. One, it is keeping the wound fresh. Because you're not talking about it, the wound is still very fresh. The wound is still very fresh. Silence is deadly. Number 2, it plots revenge and vengeance. The silence plots revenge and vengeance. Number 3, it never allows healing to begin. As long as there is silence, healing never truly begins. As long as there's silence, healing never truly begins. 3 things why silence is deadly. Number 1, it is keeping the wound fresh. Wounding is still very fresh. Number 2, vengeance. It plots revenge. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. It plots revenge and vengeance. Number 3, it never allows healing to begin. As long as there's silence, healing will never begin. As long as there's silence, healing will never begin. So this is why silence is deadly, guys. This is why silence is deadly. And you must be aware of this. You must be aware of this. Because silence is deadly. Now, the fact that people are silent, follow me closely. The fact that people are silent doesn't mean they are healed. Silence is deadly. I see a lot of people who are quiet about issues. They're not saying anything. They're just okay. They're not just saying anything. No, 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 no. Silence is deadly. Silence is deadly. Fear the ones who don't say anything when you have offended them. You see that with Absalom. Silence is deadly. See, make peace with the past, because silence is deadly. Even the scripture says, as long as it lies within you, live peaceably with all men. Make peace with the past. Make peace with the past. Don't assume. Don't just say, okay, it's past, it's past. No, you hurt someone, you did wrong to someone. Don't assume it is past. Make peace. The reason why silence is deadly is because it never allows healing to begin. The more people are hurt, the more healing will not. Silence is deadly because it never allows healing to begin. That's why silence is deadly. It never allows healing to begin. You see, sometimes it is the silence that creates room for lasting hurt, pain, shame, and guilt. It is the silence that creates room for the lasting hurt, the pain, the shame, and the guilt because of the silence. All right, someone says as a feedback, it's very true. Thank you so much for that. It's very true. And the person said, yes, it's like going without prayer. Yes, silence is deadly. Also, not all listeners are good helps. They many times leave you worse off than they met you. And remember this: bitterness recruits bitterness. Life is deep, yet silence is deadly. I will move down from that conversation of silence is deadly and we got into bitter or better, which is where we are going to take off from today. Bitter or better. And we said life will happen to you at any time, but to be bitter or better is entirely your choice. Life will happen to you. In fact, if you live in Nigeria, Nigeria will happen to you. But to be bitter or to be better is entirely your choice. And we use the analogy of Ahithophel. You see, Ahithophel was a man that in scripture was one of David's most trusted and wise counselors. That when Ahithophel spoke, it was recorded that it was as though you have heard from God. That's how Ahithophel's counsel was. It was that legit. But guess what? Ahithophel was bitter towards David because of what David has done to him. Do you know that Bathsheba, the wife of Uriah, was Ahithophel's granddaughter? Ahithophel's son, Eliam, was the father of Bathsheba. Eliam was the father of Bathsheba. So Bathsheba was Ahithophel's granddaughter. So imagine one day Ahithophel was in the courts of the king, and then he saw his granddaughter coming to the king's court. And he was wondering what could be happening. And then he got the memo that, oh, the king had sent for her. Not quite long after that, he saw his son-in-law, Uriah, return back from battle. And he was like, the battle is not yet over. Why are you back? And he said, the king has sent for me. And Ahithophel, being a wise person, understood that, okay. And then he later found out from Uriah, the king has asked him to go back and be with his wife. And Uriah had so much discipline and said, I couldn't do this. The Ark of the Covenant is in the battle. The men are in the battle. I cannot be going to lay with my wife. Why? Because David at that point had discovered that Bathsheba was pregnant and wanted to use that to cover up what he has done. And Ahithophel was watching all of this. And not long after, David gave Uriah his death note to give to Joab. And in the note, David had told Joab, put Uriah at the hottest part of the battle, and then you and the valiant men should withdraw from him so that he will be killed. And that was exactly what happened. Uriah was killed. And then Ahithophel lost his son-in-law. Ahithophel lost his daughter, his granddaughter, to David. But Ahithophel never said anything. Remember, silence is deadly. Ahithophel never said anything. He still kept working with David faithfully, but he was bitter. He was bitter. And I told you earlier that bitterness recruits bitterness. Now, Absalom, when he now started to rebel against his father David, now went and took Ahithophel to be on his side as his own counselor. And then he now asked of Ahithophel's counsel on what to do to defeat David. And Ahithophel told him that he should sleep with his father's concubine at the rooftop of the palace, the same place David had stood when he saw Bathsheba and sent for her. He said, do that same thing to him. Do that same thing to him. Why? Ahithophel has chosen to be bitter and not better. And then when Absalom heard the counsel, Absalom really did not take it. Then Absalom sent for Uzzah to give his own counsel, and Absalom went to the counsel of Uzzah. And Ahithophel couldn't take it. He went back, put his house in order, and he killed himself. You always have a choice, either to be bitter or to be better. Now, we went on to explain that 3 simple reasons about bitter or better. Number 1, it is always a choice. Number 2, it can make or mar you. From the story I just gave, Ahithophel made his choice. And from the story I just gave, that choice marred him. He hanged himself. Right? And number 3, it can define your life completely. That was the end of the great and wise Ahithophel. He killed himself. That was the end. You see, you can choose to be bitter or choose to be better, but you can never be on the fence. You are either bitter or better. You can't be on the fence. You can't be in the middle because there are no middle grounds. You are either bitter or you are better. And we said here that when you become bitter, you are stuck in the wrong that was done to you. But when you become better, you free yourself from the wrong. And we're not have to say, you are not weak because you choose to be better. Neither are you strong because you choose to be bitter. Never forget that. You are not weak because you choose to be better. Neither are you strong because you choose to be bitter. So being bitter is not strength, and being better is not weakness. Bitter is poison for you, but better is healing for you. Just in case you forget anything on this conversation on bitter or better, know that bitter is poison for you, but better is healing for you. And we went on to say, don't be bitter, just be better, because you are better off being better than bitter. I don't know if this is making sense to anybody. So these are the belief systems that we shared this week, and we hope that these make a lot of sense for you. Now let's get into the conversation fully on better or bitter. Right? We're going to talk on bitter or better. Now let's get into this conversation fully. Are you ready? Are you excited? If you're ready, let me see some fire in the comment section to know that you're ready. Put some fire in the comment section so I know that you are ready. Put some fire emojis. Give me some fire. Let me see some so I know that you are better and not bitter. Yes. Can I see the fires? Can I see the fires in the comment section? So I know that you are better and not bitter. So are you better? Are you better? Let me know. Let me know. Are you better or are you bitter? Now let's talk about both of them. Fantastic. I see some fires already. Fantastic. I see some better and not bitter. Okay. Now, bitter, Bitter, T-T-E-R. Now let's look at both of them and see how it applies to us. Yeah, I love this comment already. Someone says, I choose to be better, right? It's a good choice. You have to be better, right? So let's make progress. Now, let's talk about beta and then we'll talk about better. So it's best to start with beta and then we'll go to better, right? Okay, so let's go. Now, the B in beta starts with the blame. Anyone who's bitter always have someone or something to blame. That's just how it is. Anyone who's bitter always have something or someone to blame. They don't take responsibility. They always blame someone. Oh, it's because of this. Oh, it's because of that. There's always someone to blame. For those people who are bitter, there's always someone to blame. It always starts with a blame. There's always somebody to blame. Why this is not happening? Blame. Are you following? Please write that down for those of you who are writing. Bitter starts with blame. There's always someone to blame when you are bitter. It starts with the blame. Right? And now, the I in bitter is indecisive. So because I'm bitter, because I blame someone, I'm indecisive. I don't know what next to do. I'm in a fix. I'm indecisive because I'm bitter. So the one who is bitter is always indecisive. It can't make a decision. It can't make progress because it's indecisive, because it's bitter. So yes, something happened to you, no doubt. But the moment you choose to be bitter, you become indecisive to look beyond what has happened to you and what is still possible for you. Like I always tell people, what is ahead of you is much more than what is behind you. So which means there are still more opportunities ahead of you than the one you have missed. But when you choose to become bitter, you become indecisive. You're not becoming decisive. You're no longer taking decisive measures anymore because you are bitter. Is this making sense? So learn, you must learn to not be indecisive, because when you do that, guess what's happening to you? You have chosen to be bitter. Remember, it is always a choice. To be bitter or to be better is always a choice. You see, look at what's been happening today. While we're having this conversation, the power is going up. The power is going up, is fluctuating. I can choose to be bitter and be angry. Oh, why is this happening right now? I'm doing the life, but why is this happening? I can choose to be bitter. Or I can choose to be better and continue regardless of the power fluctuations. Is this making sense? So the one who is bitter is indecisive. You cannot make decisive steps for next level because you are bitter. I know you're already having blame, and now you're indecisive. And then the first T in bitter is tired. The one who's bitter has resolved to fate and now is tired, feeling hopeless, feeling helpless. He's just tired. Like, why me? Why is everything happening to me like this? Why is my life like this? Why this? Why that? Yada, yada, yada. Why me? He's tired. And as a result of that, has become bitter. I tried and I failed. I'm tired. and become bitter towards those who are making progress because you are not. And remember this, I always tell people this, that the fact that other people are succeeding does not mean you are failing. It's just not yet your time. Remember, Ecclesiastes reminds us, time and chance happens to them all. So the one who is bitter is tired. I've tried enough. I've done enough. Nothing has worked. I'm tired. And because you are tired, you become bitter to those who are making progress. Why always them? Why can't it be me? Sometimes when people say God when, you've always heard people say that phrase, God when, is literally a statement of envy of other people because they see other people making progress, and the first thing to say is God when. Instead of genuinely rejoicing for those people, they're asking God when. And these people, they are tired because it looks like nothing is happening for them, so they become bitter. The next T in bitter is troubled. You're not troubled on every side. Jesus said something. He said, in the world, there will be tribulations. There will be trouble. But he says, be of good cheer, for I overcome the world. That is an encouragement for you. But if you don't take that encouragement, guess what? You are going to be troubled. And when you are troubled, you are going to be bitter because you're always going to feel, why is everything just against me? Why can't things just work for me? You're going to always feel troubled. And because you feel troubled, guess what? You're going to be bitter. See, guys, what we're talking about is very practical. And you see it happen with a lot of people. A lot of people. First, it starts with the blame. Then they become indecisive. Then they are tired. Then they are troubled. And the E in bitter is then they are enraged. They have so much rage. They're angry with everyone. They're angry with the world. They're angry at themselves. They're angry with everyone who they can be angry at. They're enraged. Why? Because they are bitter. They're bitter. And remember, it's always a choice. It's always a choice you make. So look at people who are bitter. They are enraged. They are angry. They are upset. They are feeling, God, where were you when all of this is happening? If you are truly God, why need you help? They are enraged because they are bitter. Right? And then finally, the arrow in bitter is refuse. Because they are bitter, they refuse to heal. They refuse to get help. They are bitter. They refuse to get help. They refuse to be healed. They refuse to get counsel. They refuse to come up from where they have kept themselves stuck because they are bitter. You see, bitterness keeps you stuck. We said that earlier. But being better frees you from the wrong. Bitterness keeps you stuck in the wrong. But being better frees you from the wrong. And you see why they are stuck is because they refuse to be healed. They refuse to come out from where they put themselves in. If you put yourself inside the wrong thing, you also have to take yourself out of it. Sometimes I tell people that you cannot pray yourself out of what you behave yourself into. You cannot pray yourself out of what you behave yourself into, which means you have to behave yourself out of it. So people who are bitter, they refuse to be healed. They refuse to get help. They refuse to come out from where they kept themselves stuck because of their bitterness. And like I told you earlier, bitter is poison for you. Being bitter is poison for you. Being better is healing for you. So the choice is yours. And you cannot take poison and expect another person to die. Bitterness is poison for you. That's why you see that people are they're having wrinkles in their face. They are getting old quickly because of bitterness, because it's poison. But being better is healing for you. So this is what it is to be bitter. It starts with blame. It becomes indecisive. You become tired. You become troubled. You become enraged. And then you refuse. That is bitter. Now let's go to better. Now we looked at bitter. Let's go to better. Now I like the comments. I'm seeing the fires. Thank you so much for the fires. Thank you so much for the comment. Bitter is poison for you, but better is healing for you. Thank you so much for the fires again. And thank you so much for the comment. Wow, very true. Tired people are really bitter. So true. Tired people are really bitter. Keep the comments coming in, guys. You guys are phenomenal. Now let's look at better. We've seen bitter. Now let's look at better. The B in better is brave. Right? It takes being brave to accept what has happened to you and then look for help. Now, let me tell you this. You know, in the stages of grief, the first stage is denial. When something's happened to you, people literally deny that those things happened. That's the stage one of grief. And you know, there are 5 stages of grief. That's the stage one of grief. But when you want to be better, you have to be brave enough to accept what happened to you and know that despite what has happened to you, there is still more to your life. Remember, I told us, your past does not equate your future. You made a mistake does not erase your future. So you must be brave enough to know that you are not your mistake. You are not your past. You are not what happened to you. You are much more. So you must be brave enough to still realize that you are much more. So to be better starts from you being brave. You are much more. You are better than this. You are much more. The E in better, the first E in better is empathy. You must show yourself empathy. Remember, one of the things we talked about in the belief system during the week was forgive yourself. Forgiving yourself is a way to show empathy to yourself. Literally, people may not apologize for the wrong they've done to you, but you must learn to forgive them without an apology after you have forgiven yourself. Because the truth is this, you cannot forgive them even if you cannot first forgive yourself. I've heard people say, no, I can never forgive them for what they've done. If you can't forgive them, you cannot be better. Because guess what? The more you hold on to them through unforgiveness, the more bitter you become. And the more bitter you become, the more poison you put into your system, because bitterness is poison. And the more bitter you become, the more bitter people you also recruit to your side, because bitterness recruits bitterness. That's why Absalom was able to recruit Ahithophel, because Ahithophel was already bitter towards David. Because Ahithophel has taken David had taken Ahithophel's granddaughter, which was Bathsheba, and killed his son-in-law, which was Uriah. So Ahithophel was already bitter towards David. So when Absalom came recruiting him, it was easy to recruit him, because bitterness recruits bitterness. So you see, if you don't learn to show yourself empathy, you can't forgive yourself. And if you can't forgive yourself, you can't forgive others. And if you can't forgive yourself and forgive others, you cannot be better. Because the truth is, you will become like the ones who wronged you if you don't become better. When you become bitter, you become like the ones who wronged you. When you become better, you do not become like the ones who wronged you. So you see why you must show yourself empathy. Otherwise, you will become like the ones who hurt you. And remember, hurting people hurt people. Healed people heal people. Never forget that. Hurting people hurt people, healed people, heal people. So you must show yourself empathy. The first T in better is truth. You must tell yourself the truth, accept the truth, and live by the truth. And your scripture tells us that you will know the truth, and the truth will make you free. Right? Yeah, someone says bitterness is a bitter pill to swallow. It's so true. Bitterness is a bitter pill to swallow. But you know the truth? Truth also. Truth also is a bitter pill to swallow. I always tell people this, that whenever truth becomes a pill too difficult to swallow, then maybe your windpipe is narrow. Whenever truth becomes a pill that is too difficult to swallow, then maybe your windpipe is narrow. The truth is this: if it must be better, you must come to accept the truth. You must come to know truth. You must come to live by truth. You see, not every rumor or gossip have an iota of truth. You know, people say, oh, every rumor must have an iota of truth. It is not true. Because when Jezebel wanted to destroy Naboth, she spread lies about Naboth. He had no iota of truth. And Naboth was killed, and Ahab collected Naboth's vineyard. So that tells you that not every rumor has an iota of truth. Not. But if it must be better, you must come to terms with the truth. You must believe the truth. You must accept the truth. And you must live by the truth if it must be better. The other T in better is trust. Right? It's trust. Yeah, someone says bitterness is a bitter pill to swallow, and someone says when you become bitter, you become like the ones who hurt you. Exactly. You become like the ones who hurt you when you become bitter. Now, the other T in better is trust. You know, one of the things that happen to you when you are hurt is that you lose trust. But when you are made the choice to be better, you must trust again. And I tell people, you must learn to trust even when you have no reason to trust. Trust doesn't have an expiry date. You must learn to trust. It's one way for you to be better, because believe it or not, you can't go about suspecting everyone. You must learn to trust again. Because the things that hurt you, the things that abused you, the things that traumatized you, they have destroyed your trust. But if you want to be better, you must learn to trust again. That's why being better is trust. To be better, you must trust. Even when you have no reasons to, you must trust. You must trust. So understand this. Understand this. When it comes to you being better, you must have trust. And trust doesn't have an expiring date. Trust doesn't expire. It doesn't expire. In fact, I tell people, trust people until they prove they can no longer be trusted. And even at that point, still don't lose trust. Because once you lose trust, every other thing is gone. So to be a better person, you must be able to still trust again. You must be able to still trust again. That's the only way you will not be bitter, but you'll be better, because you can still trust. And then the other E in better is that you become enlightened. You now know better. You know, they always say this, that when you know better, you do better and you live better. To know better, you must be enlightened. So instead of seeing the wrong done to you you see the lessons learned from it. I'll say that again. Instead of seeing the wrong that was done to you, you see the lessons you learn from it. That way you become enlightened from the circumstance that happened to you. So sometimes when things happen to people, I always ask them, what is the moral lesson you can learn from this? Why? Because there's always a lesson to learn. And it is that lesson that gets you enlightened to be better. Is this making sense? You must understand how important it is for you to be enlightened. That's what makes you better. Because now you're enlightened. Now you know. Right now you know you're enlightened. So instead of getting angry, instead of getting upset, instead of getting downcast, you are enlightened from the situation. It may not look good or pleasant, but you are enlightened from it. That's why Joseph could tell his brothers in Genesis 50, verse 20, he said, what you meant for evil, God turned it around for good. Why? Joseph didn't become bitter. He was better because he was now enlightened, because he saw that if he wasn't prime minister, he cannot be able to provide Goshen for the people of Israel. Are you getting this? So instead of you to be bitter, be better. And as you are better, guess what? You are enlightened. The E, the second E in better is enlightened. And finally, the R in better is responsible. When you are better, you are more responsible. You take ownership. You take responsibility. You don't play the blame game. Why? Because in the blame game, everybody loses and nobody wins. That's the blame game for you. Everyone loses, no one wins. That's the blame game for you. But when you are better, you are responsible. You take responsibility. You don't blame anyone. It is your life, so it is your responsibility. So this is what it is for you to be better. You are brave. You have empathy. You know truth. You have trust. You are enlightened, and you are responsible. Now, remember the three things I shared earlier, and I'll share them again. Number one, bitter or better, it is always a choice. You always have a choice to make whether to be bitter or to be better, regardless of what happens to you, regardless of what life brings your way. You always have a choice to be bitter or to be better. Number two, it can either make or mar you. Bitter can either make you or mar you, which means you can be bitter and it will mar you, or you can be better and it will make you. So it can either make you or mar you, bitter or better. And the third thing is that it can redefine your life completely. If you choose to be bitter, it can take you on a spin of 180 degrees and you are going into a very different direction completely. And if you choose to be better, it can also take you on a spin on 180 degrees and you're going a different direction completely. So bitter or better, it can redefine your life completely. So now, the question now is, what are you going to do? Are you going to be bitter or are you going to be better? It's entirely up to you. It's entirely up to you. Because bitter or better is a choice. None is forced upon you. You choose. Right? Just the same way we say nobody makes you angry. You only choose anger as a response. Nobody makes you bitter. You only choose bitter as a response. Nobody makes you better. You only choose better as a response. So it all comes back to your choice. Bitter or better, the choice is yours to make, regardless of what happens to you. The choice is yours to make. right? So at this point, we'll take a few questions before we call it a wrap for today. Have you enjoyed this session? I have enjoyed this session. I don't know about you, but have you enjoyed this session? Have you learned something on this session? Has this session opened your eyes on why it is a disadvantage for you to be bitter and is an advantage for you to be better? I'll take a few questions and then we'll call it a wrap for today. Thank you so much for being here. All of you, I see you have been here. I see your fires. I see the emojis. I see your comments. Thank you so much for being here. Do want to also share this with your friends, your followers, your life partner, your enemies, your church WhatsApp group. Share, because there are a lot of people who are bitter and they don't know. So this would help them to know that they are bitter and that there's a better option for them to be better instead of bitter. So let's take a very few questions before we call it a day. Someone says, very true. I've enjoyed this session. Bitter or better, the choice is yours to make. So true. The choice is always yours to make. Bitter or better, it's always your choice. And no one makes that choice for you. No one makes that choice for you. Yeah, someone says this was a good one. Thank you so much. Yeah, let's take a few questions, guys. Let's take a few questions before we'll call this a wrap. You know, on the Upgrade Mastery Just For You, we got to take your questions. And you know, it's for you, right? We do this every Friday, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. live. So feel free to invite your friends, gather your friends around to have this time with them, right? Someone asked a question, right? Session is enlightening. Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much. Someone asked a question, and the question is there a process why one has gone through hurt, trauma, or pain before they get better? And how and what should one do to get to the point of becoming better and not bitter? Now, is there a process why one has gone through hurt, pain, or trauma before they get better? Now, the thing is this: if there's a process, let me answer this question. If there's a process why one has gone through hurt, pain before they get better, I see what you go through. Look at it from that perspective. You are going through. So I tell people, grow through what you go through. I'll say that again. Grow through what you go through. So when you're going through something, let that thing be the ingredient for your growth. So grow through it. So while Joseph was going through what he went through, he was growing. First, he was sold into slavery. He was sold into Potiphar's house. He became a slave. He was accused and lied upon and thrown into prison. In prison, he interpreted the dream of the butler and the baker, and the butler forgot him for 2 years. All of this process, Joseph was growing through what he was going through. So is there a process? Yes. The process is that you grow. You look at what we have talked about in being better. Become brave. Don't let it become what silences you. Become brave. Have empathy for yourself. Know the truth. Lead by the truth. Stand for the truth. Have trust. Be enlightened and be responsible. That is how you go through the process and you grow through it. Right? And the other part of the question says, what and how should one do to get to the point of becoming better and not bitter? I just explained that. To get to that point is to realize that you are growing through what you are going through. And how do you grow through it? You'll be brave. You have empathy. You know the truth. You will trust. You'll be enlightened and you'll be responsible. This is how you grow through what you go through, right? Thank you for that question. And someone asked, would it be considered silence if you talk to someone other than the person who offended you when you see that the offender refuses to be reasonable? Okay, now, we also talked about earlier that silence is deadly. Now, it won't be silence if you talk to someone other than the person who offended you. First, you get it off your chest, and then summon up courage to be able to talk to the person who actually offended you, so the person can know. Now, you are not doing this so you can get the friendship back. You're doing this just so the person gets to know and don't do the same thing to another person. Because sometimes some people hurt us and they don't even know they are hurting us. That's the truth. Some people hurt us, we don't even know they're hurting us. So it lies on us to be able to let them know that what you did is wrong and it hurts me. I have forgiven you, but I'm not saying we can become friends again, but I've forgiven you. Right? But what you did hurt me. So yes, it's okay to tell somebody else, but you must still summon up courage to be able to tell the one who truly offended you that you did this thing to me and it was actually not cool. But I forgive you. But for next time, don't do this to someone else. You may not take it lightly the way I've taken it. Right? So when you see that the offender refuses to be reasonable, it's okay. It's okay. Like I said, you are telling them not because you want the friendship back, but because you want it there to be peace and not animosity anymore. Does that make sense? Thank you so much, guys. So, guys, this is what we'll call it a wrap for today. Thank you so very much for being here to the end on this conversation on bitter or better. I believe that you've learned something. Do well to share this with your friends, your family, and even your enemies, because they must learn that it's not wise to be bitter, but it's wise to be better, regardless of what happens to you. Remember, there's always more on the upgrade side of life. So we encourage you to leave good behind so that you can upgrade and be better. Thank you so much for watching. See you again on another Upgrade Mastery just for you. Until then, remember, there's always more on the upgrade side of life. So we encourage you, leave good behind so that you upgrade. And one way to upgrade is to be better and not bitter. Thank you for watching. God bless you.